the big story today, Johnson. We begin with an announcement that flew under the radar most of the day. Former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson will be running for president in the year 2012. Good afternoon to you. I am Dylan Ratigan. Johnson, the latest Republican to make his intentions known in an announcement on the steps of the New Hampshire Capitol. Watch.
This is the first time I get to say this, but I am running for president of the United States.
Well, the libertarian-leaning former governor, perhaps best known for cutting New Mexico's budget and taxes, as well as his efforts to legalize marijuana. In an email to supporters, Johnson highlighted his record of fighting for smaller government and fiscal conservatism and pledged to passionately seek the GOP nod. Now, even without a ton of name recognition, in such a fractured Republican field, you truly never know what might happen. And joining us now is Gary Johnson, the former New Mexico governor and now officially a GOP presidential candidate. He currently runs the Our America Initiative. It's a political group that aims to, quote, enlighten the population about civil liberties, free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. And Governor, what do you see that you have in common with the GOP?
Well, I think the GOP has always been about the checkbook. Dylan, I happen to believe that only the Republicans are capable of fixing the situation that we're in right now. And why the electorate would give Republicans a chance at this, given that just a few short years ago, Republicans controlled both houses of Congress and the presidency, passed a prescription drug care benefit, and ran up record deficits at that time. I'm not so sure, but I'm under the belief that only the Republican Party fixes this. I'm under the belief that we're on the verge of a financial collapse that would have a basis in the fact that we cannot repay $14 trillion in debt if we're spending $1.65 trillion a year going forward.
Yeah. It's interesting. I want to bring something else into this conversation, but stay here. Obviously, you poll very well with what I would call the Ron Paul crowd, libertarians, free enterprise types. There's the CPAC straw poll where you came in third behind Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. Interestingly, you also attract endorsements from the likes of Glenn Greenwald, who I would argue, and it's hard to characterize Glenn, I hate to put him in a box, but he certainly is not a fan of the GOP. He says, and this is Glenn writing on you, one of his hopes for 2012 is that candidates will emerge to take on the red and blue teams, obviously GOP and Democrats. Glenn is keeping an eye on Gary Johnson, a two-term Republican governor of New Mexico who is pro-gay, anti-war, and who could run with a Democrat like former Wisconsin Senator Russ Feingold. There's a fairly quixotic issue mix here where you and I surely agree on too big to fail banks. We agree probably on rigged healthcare monopolies. We probably agree on the war. I'm certainly pro-gay, whatever that means. I'm not anti-gay. I'm not even sure how I'm entitled to have a position on gay, quite honestly. What is confusing to me is how this type of issues, fiscal discipline, true free enterprise, dealing with trade, along with these sort of social views that you have, fit into either political box, Democrat or Republican.
Well, that's probably a good thing. And let me just point out the obvious, that this is a contest. This is a contest. Who do Republicans check off as their spokesperson? Well, if you don't give them a choice, if I'm not there, if I'm not one of those names, then maybe they end up checking off a spokesperson that doesn't really represent what it is that they're thinking, and they, to the rest of the world, telegraph a Republican as someone that really maybe is not representing the Republican Party. So I'm engaged in this. It's a contest. I'm thinking I speak on behalf of maybe most Republicans, but I'm putting that to the test.
If you were to look at the core issue that underlies what ails this country, it is clearly the dependence on campaign fundraising of both political parties and their dependency on really 6 major industries that fund the vast majority of all political campaigns. Do you believe that you could gird yourself, and my goodness, it would require some rather heavy girding to do it, to actually come into the room and say, not only do I believe everything that you've already articulated, but I recognize the root of evil is money in politics, and I will root it out with a constitutional amendment of some kind?
Well, Dylan, what I think is needed is transparency, and part of campaigning is fundraising. So we're hoping to have a successful, aggressive online fundraising campaign. You know, I have no complaints about the system. The system is as it is, and I've been treated really fairly by the system. I have no complaints. I'm believing that we will raise enough money that my voice will actually get heard in this process, and if it gets heard, that's all I can ask for.
But wouldn't it make sense to step up and say, listen, we have a corrupt healthcare system, or at least an outdated one. We've got a corrupt banking system. We have all these wars. We have a military-industrial complex to go with those wars. We have a massively inefficient energy. Well, why do we have these things? And it is because of the special interest influence in Washington.
So my idea transparency. If let's say Exxon is your big contributor, let's pass legislation that you got to wear an Exxon sticker commensurate with their contribution. Just make it transparent and know that, gosh, we're electing the corporate candidate because his entire jacket is filled with logos, as opposed to someone who doesn't have any logos on at all.
Would you make that part of your platform in your presidential campaign?
No, I think that sounds a little kooky. I think.
I mean transparency.
But it's my point.
I don't mean stickers on our jackets. I mean transparency.
Transparency, absolutely. That's what's needed when it comes to campaign finance reform. Right now, you can contribute money to the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, and they can then distribute it to candidates without that link being made. And that link is oftentimes corporate interest, if not more times than not. Look, that link should be established.
Oh, speaking of links, we lost our link. No, there you are. You're back, Governor. Sorry, we lost you for a second. Finish your thought.
Well, just that, transparency. Make the process transparent. Just make sure that that when it comes to any candidate, you know where their money is coming from, every bit of it, every dime.
Very quickly on marijuana, how do you reconcile your pro-legalization views, which the trends in this country are clearly with you, at the same time the Republican Party is 2/3 against?
You know, I can't think of a more conservative issue than marijuana. For me as governor of New Mexico, everything was a cost-benefit analysis. What are we spending our money on, and what are we getting for the money that we're spending? That needs to take place in the federal government also. What are we spending our money on? What are we getting for the money? And by the way, we're borrowing 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. But in that context, Dylan, half of what we spend on law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons is drug-related. What are we getting for that? We're arresting 1.8 million people. We have now 2.3 million people behind bars in this country. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. And isn't this the country of liberty and freedom? Well, no, not when it comes to drugs. So legalize it, control it, regulate it, tax it. Let's make the correlations with prohibition and the fact that violence is a prohibition phenomenon.
Governor, as anybody who's watched my show knows, a lot of the views that you articulate are very similar to the sort of rhetoric that we use around here, and it will be very interesting to watch your campaign, and we thank you for keeping us up to date.
Hey, thank you for having me on, and I'll hopefully be able to do this again a few more times.
I would imagine you will, sir. Governor Johnson, all the best.